Just hours after his longtime friend and advisor Roger Stone was sentenced by a judge to 3 years, 4 months in prison, President Trump just moments ago in Las Vegas dropped some strong hints that Stone might never see the inside of a jail cell.
Roger has a very good chance of exoneration, in my opinion.
In terms of a pardon, President Trump said he would not take any official actions now since he would like to see the process play out. But the president also suggested he would make a determination on the matter at a later date, and that in his view, Stone had been treated unfairly. Stone, of course, was convicted by a jury last fall of lying to Congress and threatening a witness. The president has in the past attacked the prosecutors in the case and the judge in the case, and today he specifically singled out for criticism the forewoman of the jury.
The woman who was in charge of the jury is totally tainted. When you take a look, how can you have a person like this? She was a anti-Trump activist. Can you imagine this?
There is no evidence she is an anti-Trump activist. The forewoman is a Democrat and had run for office before, but Stone's attorneys were well aware of this. They asked her if she would be capable of judging the case without bias. She said yes. They took no actions to remove her from the jury. We should also note that the president's own attorney general seems to think quite the exact opposite about the fairness of this case, as he told ABC News just days ago.
The Stone case was prosecuted while I was Attorney General, and I supported it. I think it was established he was convicted of obstructing Congress and witness tampering, and I thought that was a righteous prosecution, and I was happy that he was convicted.
Mr. Trump's comments come in the midst of his post-acquittal tour, where he seems to be punishing his enemies and rewarding his loyalists. CNN's Sarah Murray kicks off our coverage from the federal courthouse in Washington.
A federal judge sentenced Roger Stone to more than 3 years in prison and 2 years of probation today as she delivered a scathing condemnation of the actions of President Trump's longtime friend and political advisor. This case did not arise because Roger Stone was being pursued by his political enemies, Judge Amy Berman Jackson said. It arose because Roger Stone characteristically injected himself smack into the middle of one of the most significant issues of the day. Jackson said the dismay and disgust over Stone's behavior should transcend party lines. Stone was not prosecuted, Jackson said, for standing up for the president. He was prosecuted for covering up for the president. Stone stood quietly, his hands in his pockets, slightly slouching as Jackson delivered the sentence for the 7 charges: obstructing a congressional proceeding, witness tampering, and lying to Congress, including telling lies that protected the president.
The fact is that Roger Stone was treated horribly, and so were many other people. Their lives were destroyed.
The case played out amid extraordinary political intervention, as Trump called Stone's prosecution unfair and suggested the judge was biased. The judge and government prosecutors appeared determined to defend the judicial system in the face of Trump's attacks. Prosecutors initially asked the government to sentence Stone to 7 to 9 years in prison, but Attorney General William Barr overruled the recommendation in favor of a lesser sentence. In response, the 4 prosecutors resigned from the case. The new government prosecutor named to the case, John Crabb, defended the original trial team. This prosecution is righteous, Crabb said. Jackson drove home the seriousness of Stone's crimes. Now, Roger Stone left court today without speaking on his behalf. He did not speak in the courtroom. He did not speak to the press when there was a frenzy on his way out of the courtroom today. Instead, he left here. He went to a Washington, D.C. restaurant, The Palm, where he watched the president's remarks about him on his phone. Jake?
Okay, Sarah Murray, hold on right there. I want to come back to you. President Trump just went off about Roger Stone while speaking to a group of former prisoners at a criminal justice event. As we keep refreshing the president's Twitter feed to see if he is going to make an official comment about whether or not he's actually going to issue a pardon before Stone goes to jail, let's bring in Caitlin Collins at the White House. And Caitlin, the president did not explicitly say a pardon is coming. He said he wanted the process to play out. But he was pretty clear he doesn't like the way this has gone down and that Roger Stone's going to be exonerated one way or another is how I interpreted it.
Yeah, and Jake, I want to highlight where the president made these comments. He's speaking at the Las Vegas Police Department at a graduation ceremony for former prisoners who are re-entering society, where he essentially indicated he is not going to pardon Roger Stone right now, but Jake, he is leaving the door open to doing so in the future.
I'm not going to do anything in terms of the great powers bestowed upon a president of the United States. I want the process to play out. I think that's the best thing to do, because I'd love to see Roger exonerated, and I'd love to see it happen.
Now, Jake, speaking in front of these former prisoners, the president downplayed Roger Stone's crimes, saying they say he lied, but other people lied too.
All right, Caitlin, stay there. Sarah, let me bring you back. Sarah, take a listen to President Trump just moments ago talking about the forewoman of the jury.
It's my strong opinion that the forewoman of the jury, the woman who was in charge of the jury, is totally tainted. When you take a look, how can you have a person like this?
Sarah, fact check that for us.
You know, there is a foreperson of the jury that Roger Stone and his allies have taken issue with. They've actually used juror misconduct as a basis for their submission for a new trial. And the predominant thing that got their attention was this foreperson posted on social media about how she was defending the integrity of the prosecutors, the 4 prosecutors who resigned from this case that the president and the president's allies have attacked. Now, Roger Stone's allies have flagged other social media posts. They're trying to make this woman appear to be completely anti-Roger Stone, completely anti-Trump. And look, this is an appeal that's before the judge. The judge has said she's going to consider it, but they also had an opportunity to remove this person from the jury at the beginning and didn't do so.
That's exactly right. And it's not like we live in a world where only Democrats are on juries for Democrats and Republicans for Republicans. Sarah, take a listen to what Seth Cousins, a different member of the jury, told our Chris Cuomo just last night.
Tamika actually was perhaps the strongest advocate in the room for a rigorous process, for the rights of the defendant, and for making sure that we took it seriously and looked at each charge. Without her in the room, we would have returned the same verdict, and we would have returned it more quickly and without looking as deeply into the evidence.
Seems to undermine exactly what President Trump is saying. Sarah.
Yeah, it does undermine what Trump is saying. I mean, you see another member of the jury saying this foreperson made us look harder at the facts and really evaluate this. And I think when we talk about how this jury was selected, yes, the judge was one of the people who was ferreting out any potential bias. That is something that was considered. But Roger Stone's team also had an opportunity to question these jurors about political bias before they were selected. So it wasn't just the judge handpicking these folks. It's not like Roger Stone's team is suddenly learning about this member of the jury for the first time. Again, it is ultimately up to the judge to evaluate these facts, to decide whether Roger Stone deserves a new trial based on them. But this is not someone who was flagged to be removed from this group at the beginning when they were screening for political bias.
Caitlin, take a look at what President Trump tweeted this morning, the same time that Roger Stone was being sentenced by the judge. The president tweeted, "They say Roger Stone lied to Congress." I guess he was watching CNN. And then the president says, "Oh, I see, but so did Comey." And he also leaked classified information for which almost everyone other than crooked Hillary Clinton goes to jail for a long time. And so did Andy McCabe, who also lied to the FBI. Fairness? So, Caitlin, I find it very difficult to imagine President Trump just letting the system play out, and if that includes Roger Stone going to jail.
Yeah, and you would be right in that, because the president is essentially saying, let's let this play out. We know Roger Stone wants a new trial, but the president is making pretty clear, he's indicating that if that does not play out to his satisfaction, that a pardon or a sentence commutation for Roger Stone is in the future. And Jake, we should also keep in mind that Roger Stone's allies have been lobbying the president for months to pardon Roger Stone if he did get jail time today. Of course, he did not get a short sentence from that judge today. So it's really hard for people who know the president well, know what he's been saying about this privately, to see how he does let this go.
Right. It's a shorter sentence than the original prosecutors recommended, but still 3 years, 4 months in jail is not pleasant for anyone.